My beloved child, stop for just a moment, because the message you are about to hear begins with words your soulmate has been holding back for far too long. I need to tell you what happened today. It's very urgent. Please open this. There was something about today that changed the way they were thinking about you, and it happened so unexpectedly that even they were not prepared for what they felt afterward. Stay with me for a moment, because this is not simply about a message, a conversation, or an ordinary moment that passed and disappeared. Something happened that made them look at your connection differently. They may have been trying to stay composed, acting as though everything was normal, but inside, a realization was growing stronger. And the most surprising part is this: the moment they finally understood what was happening, their first thought was you. They remembered something you said, something you did, or perhaps even something you never said at all. That memory suddenly carried a meaning it never had before. As this unfolds, clarity will come, because the reason behind their urgency is connected to a truth they have been slowly discovering about your place in their life. Today may have brought your soulmate face to face with a feeling they could no longer easily dismiss. Perhaps someone mentioned your name, perhaps an unexpected reminder brought you into their thoughts, or perhaps a completely ordinary moment suddenly became deeply emotional for them. Whatever the trigger was, something shifted. They realized that pretending not to care was becoming harder than admitting that they care deeply. And this is where the message becomes powerful. They are not simply thinking, "I miss you." Their thoughts are moving toward, "I need to explain myself." There is a difference between missing someone and feeling that you owe them the truth. Something huge is waiting for you in this message, because your soulmate may finally be reaching the point where silence no longer feels comfortable. They have questions they want answered, but they also have answers they want you to hear. They may have replayed an old conversation in their mind and wondered whether they misunderstood you. They may have looked back at a moment when they walked away, stayed quiet, or failed to express what was really happening inside them. And now, that memory feels completely different. They are beginning to understand that what looked like distance may actually have been fear, hesitation, confusion, or an attempt to protect their emotions. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes the person who appears the most distant is the person fighting the strongest internal battle. But there is another layer to what happened today, and this is the part you should not rush past. Your soulmate may have encountered something that reminded them of the future they once imagined with you. Maybe it was a place, a song, a simple phrase, a familiar situation, or even a conversation that unexpectedly brought your connection back into focus. For a brief moment, they saw the possibility of losing something meaningful simply because they had waited too long to speak. That realization can change everything. Suddenly, the things they once considered small became important. The words they never sent became important. The questions they never asked became important. And the thought that keeps returning is simple: what if I finally tell them everything? That is why this message feels urgent. Not because you need to panic, but because something inside them has reached a turning point. They are beginning to understand that some opportunities do not remain open forever, and some conversations become more meaningful when they happen before another day passes. There is a reason this message found its way to you at this moment. It may be reminding you not to judge the entire connection by its quietest chapter. What you could not see may have been developing underneath the surface all along. Your soulmate may have been gathering courage, sorting through emotions, and trying to decide whether honesty was worth the vulnerability it would require. And today, something happened that made them lean closer to that decision. So listen carefully to the final thought, because this is where the entire message begins to come together. Your soulmate's words, "I need to tell you what happened today," may represent more than an update about one particular event. They can represent a desire to finally let you into a part of their world that they previously kept hidden. They want you to understand what they experienced, what they realized, and why it suddenly made them think of you. They may not have the perfect words yet. They may hesitate. They may start the conversation and then pause. But underneath all of that is one powerful intention: they want to be understood. Stay with me for a moment, because the next part of this story goes even deeper into what could have happened today and why it affected them so strongly. As this unfolds, clarity will come, and you may begin to understand why their first instinct was to reach toward you instead of continuing to remain silent. Something huge is waiting for you, and the most unexpected part may be the truth they have finally realized about the connection between you. My beloved child, there is one detail about today that your soulmate cannot stop thinking about, and this is where their message becomes much more personal. Something happened that made them realize they have been carrying a conversation with you inside their mind even when you were nowhere near them. They imagined what they would say if you were standing in front of them, what they would finally admit, and what they would ask you after all this time. Then came the realization they were not expecting: they were not trying to forget you anymore. They were trying to find the right way back into communication. Stay with me for a moment, because the next part matters. They may have spent a long time convincing themselves that waiting was the safest choice, but today showed them that waiting has a cost too. A simple moment suddenly made them wonder whether you still think about them, whether you would listen if they finally opened up, and whether there is still a place in your heart for the conversation they have been postponing. That is why the words, "Please open this," carry such emotional weight. They are not simply asking for your attention. Somewhere inside, they are hoping you will give them one more opportunity to explain what they could not explain before. And the surprising part is that they may already know exactly which memory they want to talk about first. Here is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Your soulmate may have realized that something they once considered insignificant actually changed the entire direction of your connection. Perhaps they remember a moment when you showed patience, when you understood them without demanding an explanation, or when you stayed kind even though you had every reason to become distant. They may have thought about that moment today and suddenly understood its importance. Sometimes people recognize the value of something only after enough time has passed for the noise around them to become quiet. And today, that noise may have disappeared for a moment. What remained was the memory of you. They may have asked themselves, "Why does this person still matter to me after everything?" And the answer may have surprised them. It is not simply because of memories. It is because your presence left an emotional impression that they could not replace with distraction, routine, or distance. This may resonate as we continue, because there are connections where silence does not erase the feeling, it simply gives the feeling more time to reveal what it really means. Your soulmate could now be looking at the past with different eyes. They are not necessarily trying to recreate everything exactly as it was. They may want something more honest than that, an opportunity to tell you what they actually felt when they could not say it. Before we go further, if this message is holding your attention because something about it feels familiar, take a second to support the channel by sharing this video with someone who might understand its message, and leave a thoughtful comment about the part that resonated with you. And if you want more narrations like this, subscribe so you do not miss the next message. Now come back with me, because the most important part is still ahead. Your soulmate may have reached a point where they understand that an explanation is no longer enough. They want you to see the heart behind their actions. They may finally want to tell you why they disappeared into silence, why they hesitated, why they seemed uncertain, or why their behavior did not always match what they were feeling. And today may have given them the emotional push they needed to stop pretending that everything was simple. There is a possibility that they realized they have been waiting for the perfect moment, only to discover that the perfect moment may never arrive. Sometimes courage begins when someone understands that imperfect honesty is better than perfect silence. That could be the reason behind the urgency in their imagined message. They are thinking about what happens if they never say it. What happens if another week passes? Another month? Another chapter? That thought may have become uncomfortable enough to make them reconsider everything. And suddenly, the person they were trying not to think about became the person they most wanted to talk to. But there is one final realization hiding beneath everything that happened today. Your soulmate may not simply be thinking about contacting you. They may be thinking about what kind of relationship they want to have with you from this point forward. That is a much bigger question. It means they are no longer only looking backward at what happened. They are looking forward and asking themselves what could happen if both of you finally spoke honestly. They may not know exactly where the conversation will lead, but they know they do not want their feelings to remain trapped behind silence. Something huge is waiting for you in the next layer of this story, because once they explain what happened today, another truth may come out with it, the truth about why this particular moment affected them so deeply. Stay with me for a moment. As this unfolds, clarity will come. The message that began with, "I need to tell you what happened today," may ultimately reveal something much bigger than the event itself. Your soulmate is beginning to understand what they almost lost by staying silent, and that realization may be the reason they are finally preparing to speak. My beloved child, the moment they thought they had finally moved past it, one unexpected realization brought everything back to the surface. Your soulmate may have gone through today believing they could keep their emotions organized, stay focused, and simply continue with their routine. But then something happened that connected directly to you, and suddenly the calm they had been trying to maintain felt different. They remembered your voice, your presence, the way you made them feel understood, and most importantly, the things they never had the courage to explain. That is when the thought became impossible to ignore. I need to tell them what happened today. Stay with me for a moment, because this is where the message becomes deeper than a simple conversation. There is a difference between remembering someone and realizing you still have something unfinished to say to them. Your soulmate may now be recognizing that the story between you was never truly about one moment. It was about everything that remained unsaid afterward. Today may have opened that door again. They may have suddenly understood why certain memories still carry so much emotion, why certain questions never completely disappeared, and why your name can still change the atmosphere inside their mind. They are beginning to see that perhaps they were not waiting for the right moment to forget you. They were waiting for the right moment to finally understand you. And then came the part they did not expect. Something may have happened during an ordinary conversation or ordinary moment that made them realize how much they had misunderstood about you. Perhaps they heard someone describe a situation that reminded them of your story. Perhaps they witnessed a small act of kindness that brought back something you once did. Or perhaps they simply found themselves thinking about you without deliberately trying to. Whatever the trigger was, it created a powerful question in their mind. What if I was wrong about what they felt? That question can change everything. They may now be reconsidering moments when they assumed you did not care, when they thought you had moved on, or when they interpreted your silence as a final answer. The truth may be that both of you were waiting for clarity while each person was quietly interpreting the other person's silence. That kind of misunderstanding can create distance without either person truly wanting the distance. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes the biggest obstacle between two people is not a lack of feeling, it is a lack of honest communication. And today, your soulmate may have finally recognized that. They may be realizing that the answer they were searching for was never hidden in someone else's opinion. It was hidden inside the conversation they kept postponing with you. There is also something emotionally important about the way they are approaching this now. They may no longer want to prove anything. They may not want dramatic words or complicated explanations. They simply want you to understand what was happening inside them when they seemed distant. They want you to know that certain choices were influenced by uncertainty, timing, and emotions they did not know how to express. And perhaps the biggest revelation is that they now understand your perspective more clearly than before. Imagine the moment when someone finally looks back and realizes, maybe they were waiting for me too. That realization can be incredibly powerful. It can turn old memories into lessons instead of regrets. It can make someone stop asking, "Why did this happen?" and start asking, "What can I do differently now?" That may be the reason today feels so significant in this story. Your soulmate may be reaching the point where they are ready to stop analyzing every possible outcome and simply tell you the truth. Stay with me for a moment, because the next layer is not about what they felt in the past. It is about the decision forming inside them right now. They may be asking themselves whether they should finally send the message, make the call, start the conversation, or simply tell you what they have been carrying in silence. And once that decision becomes stronger than their hesitation, everything changes. But before you move forward, remember this: a powerful message does not always arrive with dramatic signs. Sometimes the biggest shift begins quietly inside a person's heart. Your soulmate may be experiencing exactly that kind of shift. Something huge is waiting for you, but the real revelation may not be the event itself. It may be what the event taught them about you. They may now understand that your connection cannot be measured only by how often you speak, how quickly someone responds, or how things appeared from the outside. They are beginning to recognize the emotional meaning underneath it all. As this unfolds, clarity will come, and you may understand why they felt such urgency today. They were not simply remembering you. They were reconsidering the entire story. And the closer they get to speaking honestly, the more difficult it becomes for them to return to the silence they once accepted. This may resonate as we continue, because the next part reveals what happens when someone finally decides that keeping a truth inside is harder than saying it aloud. And why your soulmate may now be standing at exactly that point. My beloved child, there comes a moment when someone can no longer keep pretending that a feeling does not matter, and for your soulmate, today may have been that moment. Something shifted inside them, not because everything suddenly became perfect, but because they finally understood what their silence had been costing them emotionally. They may have looked back at the conversations they avoided, the opportunities they delayed, and the words they repeatedly told themselves they would say later. But today, later may have suddenly felt too far away. Stay with me for a moment, because this is where their message becomes deeply personal. They are not only thinking about what happened today, they are thinking about what they want to happen next. They may be imagining the moment when they finally tell you everything without hiding behind vague explanations or half-finished conversations. And perhaps the most surprising realization is this: they are beginning to understand that they do not need a perfect speech. They simply need to be honest. That thought may have given them a completely different kind of courage. They may still feel nervous, but beneath the hesitation is a growing certainty that you deserve to know what was really happening inside them. There is another piece of this story that may explain why today felt so different. Your soulmate may have encountered something that reminded them of the future they once imagined, and for a brief moment, they realized how quickly life can move forward. That realization may have made them look at your connection differently. Instead of asking whether they should wait, they may now be asking what happens if they keep waiting. What if the conversation never happens? What if the opportunity to explain themselves disappears? What if you eventually stop expecting anything from them because their silence has already answered the question for you? Those thoughts can create a powerful emotional turning point. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes a person does not realize how important a connection is until they imagine life without the possibility of repairing what was left unfinished. And your soulmate may have reached that exact realization today. They may now understand that their previous hesitation was not protecting them from disappointment, it was keeping them from discovering what could happen if they were finally honest. Something huge is waiting for you in this unfolding story, because the next step may not come from another person, another sign, or another coincidence. It may come from a decision they make within themselves. If this message has stayed with you this far and you feel that its theme speaks to something you have experienced, share this video with someone who might appreciate it, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe for more stories and narrations like this. Your support helps these messages reach people who may need a moment of reflection. Now, come back to the story, because there is one final emotional layer that your soulmate may be struggling to express. They may want you to know that whatever happened today made them realize they cannot rewrite the past, but they can choose how they respond to it now. They cannot change the words they left unsaid, but they can finally say them. They cannot erase every misunderstanding, but they can explain what was really happening. And they cannot guarantee what your response will be, but they can choose honesty over continued silence. That is a powerful realization. It means their next move may not be about controlling the outcome. It may simply be about giving you the truth you should have received earlier. As this unfolds, clarity will come, because the urgency behind, "Please open this," may actually be the urgency of someone who has finally reached the point where silence feels heavier than vulnerability. And now, my beloved child, remember the most important part: this story is not asking you to chase, force, or predict anything. It is inviting you to recognize the power of honest communication when it arrives. Your soulmate may be preparing to express something that has taken a long time to understand. They may finally tell you what happened today, what they realized, and why that moment brought your connection back into focus so strongly. The once-in-a-lifetime revelation may not be a dramatic event at all. It may be the simple truth that someone who seemed uncertain has finally become certain about what they need to communicate. Stay with me for a moment, because the story does not end with the words they are preparing to say. It begins with what those words could mean for everything that comes next. As this unfolds, clarity will come. Something huge is waiting for you, and the next chapter may reveal the exact truth your soulmate has been trying to gather the courage to tell you.